Okay, hey y'all. I am waiting. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you guys can hear me. Okay, perfect. I am adding Indigo.
Hi.
Hey, okay. I'm here. I'm waiting on my laptop to turn on. I thought it was charged this whole time and it wasn't. So
Oh,
it's been charged for a little bit, so we will get started in a sec. Let me send a link to my laptop for the video. And so you said the first hour is the one, there is a part that I do specifically want you to look at. And it's like we could speed up to that after like maybe 45 minutes. The part where he was saying about Dan.
okay.
So I have to figure out what part that is. I think I actually have a clip of that separately. So we can use that. But I am going to speed it just a little bit because he does move kind of slow in the beginning. Maybe we could clip the first part of it.
Sure. Just whatever you're comfortable with.
Okie dokie. Let me send a link to my phone. Because it's only share. Okay. All right. I'm sending it there now. Okay. So everybody can hear both of us.
Perfect.
Okay. Good. Good. Hopefully it'll be the same on my laptop. So how are you? How is everything? Did you actually see Gypsy's live just now?
Me? I could
Yeah.
not.
I wish I recorded it, but I didn't get a chance to do that. I had a dance class. But towards the end, it would have been interesting. I think Conspiracy has it on her
Okay.
page. So the end of it, I would love at a later time. Maybe you do that on your page and I can share it.
Yeah, sure. Sure, I'll do that. Often I go over anything she's done recently anyway, so yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, because she was saying stuff about the show. And I don't know, something seemed off. Like where so she was basically saying she never had the amnio fluid test done for her baby and that she would never do anything to harm her baby. Like that part, I would be very interested to see you reading her body language.
I would love to know the context too, because that's a real specific thing to say.
Right. Like she was basically saying, about the test that, you could have that amnio test to have a paternity test while you're pregnant. And
Yes.
basically what she was saying was she would have never done that because she would have never jeopardized her child in that manner.
I mean, yeah, I have a hard time believing that, unfortunately, but I will look at that definitely.
No, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I don't believe that. I don't I don't
Right.
believe that. Okay. I may just actually just turn this on and turn my actual screen on and play it on my phone. I mean my laptop or whatever. Because it's not turned on yet. So I think I'm gonna do that to speed this up.
Okay, and
Let
while
me
you're
know
doing
if you can. Go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say while you're doing that, I have a few things I want to uh, kind of note as a disclaimer first.
Okay.
And that's just that anything I say, of course, is not to be insensitive, that people who have autism are not all the same. Of course, it is a spectrum. And often they are more the victims of crimes and manipulation than they are the, as Gypsy says it, perpetrator, because they don't have the motives that other people do. And I've spent actually a lot of time with people who were on this are on the spectrum. So I don't call myself an expert on that, but I do know a bit about it.
And so the body language could be a little bit different or interpreted slightly different.
Different in certain ways because with people who are on the spectrum, they are repetitive. And so in ways it could be easier because then if they veer away from that, it indicates something else going on. Not always that they're being deceptive, but something else going on. They are maybe anxious in some way, and then there are times when they seem anxious and it's stimming, which is to relieve anxiety and boredom and things like that. So it's actually still a pretty natural thing to do. All of us do it to a degree, but people who are on the spectrum often do that more so. They have more of a tendency to do that. So in some ways it's different.
Okay. All right. I'm going to play this on here. Let me turn my camera on. I'm going to zoom this in and play it up. And this way it's probably easier when you could tell me when to stop. Let me pause it for a sec. All right. Do you want me to slow it down?
It's fine. It's a bit far away, of course, so there are things that I, of course, won't be able to see just because the camera angle is far from his face, but there are some things I can still.
I can zoom it in. Hold on.
Well, honestly, the camera itself is just pretty far from his face, but hey, if you don't mind pausing.
You said stop, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course, a lot of people have brought this up before, but the interrogator does seem to treat him as a child, especially when she starts to discuss how or ask him how he understands, if he can read things. And in that way, she treats him like a child. But then throughout this, she doesn't really pause and ask the right questions. And I'll go over that, or I'll try to remember to go over that at the right points. But she does not stop and ask the right questions. She seems to view him as this teenager who might be trying to get out of trouble. She realizes in some way, though, that he is not fully capable and aware of what he's doing. Um, and it could just be her, for lack of a better word, customer service voice. Others have noted that she talks like this to his mother, but I did not see that. I I want to note the blanket that he has across his shoulder because with Gypsy, that could be a barrier. It could be her trying to manipulate people, making them view her as someone wounded. But with him, this is such a consistent thing. It's not at certain points that he tugs at diagonally over his shoulder.
Right.
So just a few things there that I want to know. I believe that
Okay.
that's it. You can
Okay.
pause. If you don't mind pausing.
Why is it acting like the screen can't work? Okay, go ahead.
So with his palms, I want you to note that he's not touching the table directly, and this could be an indication of a sensory issue. That's something that
Hmm.
I want everyone to pay attention to if you haven't, that this itself is an issue, that if the interrogator were aware of his hand movements and more aware of his body language, that maybe this is something she could have picked up on. But he refuses to touch the table with his palms directly for the most part, and this could be a distancing thing. It could indicate him not wanting to build rapport, not wanting to connect. And with someone on the spectrum, that's pretty typical. They're not looking to charm people, they're not looking to really connect with people the way that we normally would. And that's what sets them sorry, choking. That's what sets them apart from people with antisocial personality disorder, is that those people, sociopaths in particular, will charm people, will lean in to connect, will mirror others. Nick doesn't do that, especially not here. He will write and use the side of his hand, but he won't lay his palm down. And for the most part, he's engaged in the conversation, but he's only using his hands to write on the paper, then he takes his hands back, and there's a bit of distance there. So I just wanted to note that.
That's just him pretty much like disconnecting from her or not really being comfortable.
No, actually, it's just that he's not as interested in mirroring and connecting with her as someone who is a sociopath, for example, would, or even someone
Okay.
normally would be, that we typically lean towards people, but he doesn't pick up on that. And some people can view that as maybe bizarre or distancing, maybe an indication of something else. But for someone on the spectrum, it's just that he's not really interested in that. He doesn't really pick up on that.
Okay. All right. I zoomed it in just a little bit more.
Pausing again? Sorry. All right, not sure where she went. Thank you all for joining, by the way. I appreciate that. No idea where Nina just went. Oh, there
Oh,
she is.
sorry. I felt like you couldn't hear me, but I was like, what is happening?
Seriously, why don't you?
Okay, let's skip this.
the way we're going to do this is I'm going to read each one of these out loud to you. If you understand it, then just initial after it, okay? All right. Before we ask you any questions, you have the right to, you must understand your rights. If you understand that, it's your initials right there. We'll go through each one of them together.
Okay, well, this. Well, I have a question. Yeah. If I may ask, is it okay to put it like after you read them all to you?
We have to do them one at a time.
Oh,
Okay, so that's just so I can make sure you understand each other. Just your initials. Yeah, just like that. Okay, the next one is you have the right
If you don't
to
mind pausing here.
Okay.
I know it seems like not a lot's going on, and really not a lot's going on. He is just signing things, but this is pretty telling of how he's going to be throughout this interrogation. So, what we see now, if he veers away from that, that's going to be pretty telling. But when it comes to someone again on the spectrum, there are things they will do that's often more repetitive than not. And anything that veers away from that repetitive movement or phrases sometimes will be more of an indication of something. So that will be something I discuss, but he's very matter of fact. He leans in with his head, again, not fully with his body, and that could be seen as distancing, but he's very matter of fact about all of this, very
Like
just
literal.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. He takes things
Mm-hmm.
literal. And that's the thing is people on the spectrum can lie, they can be creative, but it's less likely.
Mm-hmm.
And that really speaks volumes about the kinds of role play and things that he engaged in with Gypsy, because often when you look at what was going on in those videos, you could tell that he was following along more than really
Like she was leading it.
right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very imaginative, very matter of fact, and you'll see he's going to just answer what he's asked, and that to some people can seem deceptive because there's chunks of things that he seems to leave out at times, and it seems that he's not willing to give out information, but it's not that at all. It's that he is just answering exactly what he's being asked.
So I do have one question in reference to this part. The part where the interrogator was asking him about his like address and like certain like, do you get the feeling as though she knew something was wrong?
I can't say for sure. I mean, I do think that she almost had to, especially since people who are on the spectrum, and I keep bringing this up, but it's so important here, they will implement and recreate things. They, again, aren't imaginative. And she was sending him videos instructing him to do things and guiding him to do things. And he will even say in this interrogation at times that, well, this is just something that I saw that was popular at the time. It's not things that he comes up with. And so I think to a degree she knew that, well, there's a reason I'm having to show him and guide him and push him to do this. And it's not as natural as she probably had it with Dan, for
Mm-hmm.
example. So I believe to a degree she, if you're talking about this interrogator in particular, I still
Mm-hmm.
just under the impression that she views him as less intelligent, but not to the degree that he's actually on the spectrum, that she knows something is wrong, but it could be
Mm-hmm.
that he's playing like he doesn't know things, like he maybe just doesn't want to be as cooperative, because people, interrogators in particular, have to really consider that this could be a form of manipulation. So I
I
believe
could
it's,
see that.
yeah, I believe it's very much that.
Okay. Because I felt like she was kind of speaking to him like a kindergarten teacher at one point.
Yes.
So it seemed that's why it just seems weird as to why she treated the situation the way she did, if that makes sense.
Right. Right, because you would think that she would key into that and consider, that maybe he can't answer all the questions fully and understand fully,
Right.
but she doesn't do.
Right. So it's odd.
And there's a lot she actually, I would say, did pretty poorly here. I'm not an interrogator, but there's a lot that I think that she really should have done, even outside of just making sure he has a lawyer, and um there's just a lot she should have done here that she didn't do. So
No,
it's
that I agree.
yeah, and she seems to pick up on something might be wrong, but again, she has to also consider this could just be a form of manipulation.
Okay. That makes sense.
Anything you say can be used against you, or
That's a little different than TV.
you have the right to talk to the lawyer for advice before you ask you any questions, and have the lawyer with you during questioning. Right there. If you can't afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you before any question if you wish. Okay. If you decide to answer questions now without an attorney present, you can stop answering questions at any time. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sign right there. Initial that if you understand that. And can you read, Nicholas?
Yeah.
Another question I knew the answer to, but I went ahead and asked it. But if you can read this paragraph right here to me out loud, and if you understand it and agree with it, then you can sign this thing.
I have. Okay. This certificate.
No,
wait.
you're fine. You're fine.
Okay. I have made this statement of my rights, and I understand what my rights are. I'm willing to make a statement and answer questions. I do not want to hear at this time. I understand and know what I need. The promises of threats have been made to me, and no pressure or
Coercion.
coercion. Nothing is this word at all.
I know. You know what it means, though?
If you don't mind,
Yeah, trickery or.
Oh, okay. Coercion of any kind of used against me.
You understand and agree with?
this is another thing where he reads this so fluently that she probably figured, well, okay, if he can read this pretty fluently and he says he understands, then he does fully understand. She just takes his word for it, ironically, takes that at surface level, and further into this, she doesn't seem to treat him as childlike as she started off doing so. But I think the fact that they're in this room in the first place and he's not showing any emotion is alarming to her. And she feels that this is more typical of people who, might be sociopaths, might be manipulative or deceptive in
Okay.
any manner. Because
Okay.
he's not showing any emotion. He's not also, though, seeming to understand why he's even there. And she doesn't seem to pick up on that he has not asked why he's there. He isn't.
He even laughed. That's the part that I feel like was the a part where when he was like, "Oh, this is not like TV," or like that. To me, that was an indication that he didn't realize the severity of it.
Yes, exactly. That he didn't seem to understand fully the depth of the situation. He wasn't asking questions or looking around, just engaged with her. And you can see people who are deceptive, wanting to control. Even with Gypsy, she did that at the beginning of her interrogation, when she was looking and fully engaged with the man who was talking to her about the theme parks and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So that could be alarming to people. This lack of emotion in a situation like this, and that really should indicate to her that he's not processing fully what's going on. But again, she has to look at, maybe this is someone who's manipulative, someone like Gypsy.
That's crazy to think that. sh- But I would still have erred on the side of caution. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And people on the spectrum do sometimes have difficulties displaying emotions outwardly, expressing how they feel, and uh, showing things nonverbally that we would typically. You'll see that he doesn't use eyebrow flashes or forehead creases that sometimes can indicate deception, but it depends on the context. If he's just talking about things such as his address or things like that, we might use an eyebrow flash to emphasize, okay, this is our name, not all the time, but just for example, it really depends on where the eyebrow flash is, but he doesn't do it at all. There's almost hardly any blink rate from
Expression or mm-hmm. Okay. Alright.
All right. Oh, it's a witness.
Yeah, that's fine too.
No. Wait, study this. No,
That's fine.
you wait on the science.
Okay. You said I could call you Nick, correct? All right. So I guess you have a lot of questions for me. You've been waiting to speak with me, right? That's what you said.
At least, I lost it. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to answer your questions, but I kind of want to ask you some questions first. Is that okay? No, we can maybe take turns. Like I'll ask you some questions. You can ask me some questions.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. And that's what I want to do. I want to keep it fair. So if it seems like it's not fair, you just let me know.
I have my charger right here. Don't worry about it.
You said your name is Nicholas. And what is your middle name?
It's Paul.
Paul. And what is your last name?
It's Fraser.
And how do you spell that?
It's Jodehoh.
Okay. Jodehoh. And you said, how old are you? Yeah.
6.
Where'd you go to high school at?
I went to high school at Nathan Hale. High school was in West Dallas, Wisconsin.
Okay. So you haven't always lived where you live at now? Nope. How long have you lived in Big Bend?
Only once.
Oh, so before that, where did you live?
I lived in Waukesha.
Okay. Is that a city or a county or
It's a city.
Is that a big city?
It's the city of Waukesha. This is actually the county of Waukesha, so yeah.
So they have a county named that and a city named that? I bet that gets confusing.
Not me, I'm actually Martin.
Oh, okay. All right. So do you have any kids?
No.
No kids? Okay. As you can imagine, we talked to Gypsy a lot tonight.
Because I spent all the play with.
Yeah. So we talked to her and she told us a whole bunch of stuff that happened to you guys. And so I kind of just want to talk to you and start from the beginning, maybe like how you guys met or whatever. You know, is that can you start from where you guys met? Would that make you feel comfortable? Okay. Where did you guys meet?
It was a site called Christian for datingfree.com.
Okay. Is that like a dating site?
Yeah, it's for Christian, but it's going to be free.
Okay. So you don't have to pay
You don't mind pausing here?
Yep.
Okay. And have you met a lot of people on there?
Okay.
So he tugs a little bit at that blanket. He starts to do that, and that becomes one of the many repetitive movements you'll see within this interrogation. He'll tug at that. It's not in the context of anything in particular. It's not an indication that he's nervous about anything in particular, though Gypsy is now being brought up. And so it could look as if, maybe this is making him anxious, but given there's not this huge cluster of behaviors, I would say that that's more likely a stemming behavior. It's more repetitive. He's pulling at that and he opens and closes his hands, and he's had those cuffs on, so that really could just be why, but it's so repetitive.
Okay.
And then later on he mentions a cut of some sort on his finger, and it could be that just discomfort, but not around anything in particular.
Okay.
I met a couple other different her.
Okay. And do you guys have like names or how do you know who you're talking to?
She, when I talked to her, it was where it actually had her name as I was reading this.
What is her name?
Her name is Gypsy Rose.
Gypsy Rose. Okay. And then what was your name whenever she was talking to you?
That's what I'm about on high school.
Okay. So you had your name and then she had her name.
Yep.
And then you guys met on there. And so once you met on there, what happened?
We got closer on there and we connected one-on-one. And then we got comfortable where we like I don't know how to explain it. Is that the way that we clicked is it made it seem like we somehow just moved like for each other. So we like
A short drive from Houston, the Texas coast's best kept secret is the opportunity you've been waiting for.
what was it? 4 days, I think said 4 days later, we started a relationship together.
Okay. And so your relationship, what kind of relationship was that you guys started?
It was one of those committed ones.
Okay. To each other. Yeah, to each other. So you weren't on there looking for other people and she was looking for other people.
Exactly.
Okay. And then, so did you guys start communicating other ways other than that website? So you're a couple now.
Yeah, we tried to do play called Reenacting.
Okay.
But
If you don't mind pausing.
there's so many isolated shows on there.
Okay.
I just want to note that his words in comparison to Gypsy's, he talks about her, we, our, us, this is how we met, this is what she
Mm-hmm.
did. And Gypsy was very much all
I.
about, yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So I want to note that. And body language wise, again, there's not a lot going on. There's not a high blink rate, there's not a high stress rate, no forehead creasing or anything. And that could be alarming to people, given the situation. But for him, it's just that he's having difficulty, again, expressing that outward emotion.
Okay. Okay. So that's just standard for him. He kind of seems, I know I said this before, but I really don't think he understood how serious it was.
He definitely didn't seem
Like, I don't
across.
think he had like a slight idea.
Right. Right. He doesn't seem to at all. There's no emotion, no questions, nothing indicating that he is aware
R-
of any
Right.
consequences or anything. And that's the thing, is he's not trying to escape and avoid consequences by throwing out Gypsy's name. There's no hesitancy around this part, but there is at one point when it comes to something that she might be in trouble for. He's not as eager.
Right.
She was very eager to just say, "Oh, you don't know what kind of man Nick is," and she was very eager to give out that information. And so this
Right.
is someone who's throwing out Gypsy to escape any consequences, but it could look like that to some people.
Right. No, that I could totally see that because he definitely was very inclusive when he spoke about their relationship. He spoke about them in general. And you're right. I didn't really think about that at first, but everything was my mom and I, or something of that effect. She didn't really include him much in anything. And that may have been just her trying to disassociate from him as much as possible because she did know the severity of the situation.
Right. And even at the beginning of her interrogation, she says something along the lines of, "Well, Nick's in trouble, so I don't know why I'm here. Nick's under arrest, so I don't know why I'm here." And even body language wise, she's very inward and towards herself, illustrates a lot towards herself. And he doesn't do that here.
Right. No, I agree with that.
Um, and then, other than that, they did do Facebook Live too.
Facebook, okay. And what is your name on Facebook?
It's my name's Codefendants.
Okay, and how about hers?
Well, actually, she got rid of hers recently.
Okay.
Because me and her just I don't know how much she told me. I was told you everything that I do know also. Apparently, she told me to not kick her out of her house.
Okay.
So she texted me to pick her up.
Okay.
And what happened was I got on the bus about a day later, about in the afternoon of that day.
Okay.
And then I got back to, what was it? I believe it was Springfield, Missouri. That's where it is. I'm all loopy from Utah away. So, yeah, Springfield, Missouri. As soon as I got there, I walked straight to the hotel and never learned where I was settled out.
Okay. You got there on a bus. What kind of bus was it?
It was a Greyhound bus.
Okay. So you got to Springfield, Missouri on a Greyhound bus. And you walked straight to a hotel.
Yep.
Do you remember what that hotel was called?
That was all called Days Inn.
Days Inn. Okay. And that's in Springfield, Missouri? Yep. Okay. So you get off the bus and you walk straight to Days Inn. What kind of clothes are you wearing?
Oh, jeez. I don't have a good memory of that.
Okay. Okay. Was you wearing jeans or shorts or something?
I'm always wearing these athletic clothing.
Athletic clothing. Okay. Okay. So you get off. Do you have luggage with you or anything?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of luggage do you have?
I had men's clothing.
If you don't mind pausing that.
I was worried sick about her when I got.
I want to note here that there's no eye accessing, which are eye movements that indicate someone's having to consider something, think about information, what they're going to say next. So you hear a bunch of filler words, a lot with him, but there's no eye accessing. And again, this could be alarming to some people. There's nothing going on there, but people on the spectrum are less likely to do this because they do have a more difficult time showing those expressions and really considering that way. So the way he thinks about things is just his hand there on his chin, but you won't see the eye accessing that we would typically see. And that could indicate deception in some cases, but He's very matter of fact. There's no lilt in any of his words here, no uncertainty. He's very confident and matter of fact and very consistent with what he's saying.
That is true. Like throughout the whole time, other than like a few parts, like where he was speaking, where he was speaking on the jabs. But I'll let you look at that.
Okay.
Very clear I wanted to find her as soon as possible. Then she wanted the streets. Okay. So I brought like 3 days of clothing. So I was gonna do all I could to find her. Okay.
What were you carrying your clothing in?
It was a duffel bag.
Oh, okay. What color?
It was red and black.
Okay. Was it like a Nike or Adidas or?
My dad gave me his duffel bag. It's a marble. You know, it's like a company marble. Yeah. That's what kind of it is. One of those kind of duffel bags.
Okay. And so you get this ring so you're excited. You want to see her. So what are you doing?
I texted her and then she's obviously a lot of like free public Wi-Fi spots around there. So I don't know where he texted me from, but he was able to find somewhere to text me from. And after that, we would figure out to keep in touch.
Okay. So you're texting from your phone?
Yeah.
What is your cell phone number?
It's 262-501-9008.
Okay, what is hers?
She wasn't using her phone number. She was using her Yahoo ID. I have no clue what it is.
Is it like Yahoo Messenger? Or
Yeah, it's one of the messages that she was texting for.
So you can, from your phone, you can send her a message to that, and then she can send you a message back and forth, and you guys can chat with each other. Okay. So she told you that she's coming out, you're coming here, and you're coming to see her, and you're gonna find her. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you guys start communicating like that, and then what happens?
And then it wasn't until the 10th is when I was able to actually get her to meet me.
I'm pausing.
What happened was I told her exactly where I was on that.
Sorry, I know that must be frustrating when you constantly
No,
pause.
it's all good. No, it's all good. I appreciate you.
Again, there's this lack of things going on, especially in comparison to Gypsy. With Gypsy, there's a lot of performative behaviors, a lot of noise, a lot of movements, large illustrators, which are emphatic movements, but with her, it's not always emphatic, even it's just large movements. This distraction from things. Again, he's pretty consistent and pretty fluent in what he's saying. And he just states things. There's no lilt at the end, no uncertainty, no indication of uncertainty aside from that hand on his chin, but that's just consideration. While it could indicate stress with a cluster of other behaviors, in this case, it's just consideration. And it's not at specific points, it's pretty consistent throughout. But notice how he's not having to be noisy or add in things that she's not asking about, throw in extraneous details. He's not having
The
to
way she did.
exactly. There's not a lot of obstacles
Mm-hmm.
in the way of what she's trying to ask of him. He just answers, and that's pretty important to note with him because if he were to be deceptive, there would be all of these obstacles, all of these noises and illustrators and things that you saw with Gypsy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because you're right. She threw in a lot of like unnecessary information too. A lot of just random things where she was kind of trying to get to the punch before they did without looking suspicious. It was very interesting.
Yes, absolutely.
Actual what role it was, everything else was actual what that was. Okay. And after that, she didn't really text me for a long time. I was confused like why. Okay. And then as I'm going outside my hotel room, I don't want to into her. Okay. As I'm trying to go get an actual like soda. Okay. So you want to get a soda and just run right into her? It was right on the same level that my hotel room was. Okay. And then what happens? And then I realized it's hers when I opened the door back up, and then because apparently she packed because she knew her mom was going to figure out. Okay. And I had to bring all her clothes and everything else back into my hotel room, so it was like and somewhere to put it. Okay. And then after that, I asked her if she wanted to get a soda with me, and then she. Where'd you go get a soda? It was an event machine. I was outside. Okay. That the hotel needed. Okay. And then what happened? And then me and her pretty much stayed inside the hotel for pretty much the entire time before. Because the thing is, it was my bus ticket. It was a round trip. So at first I thought about to get her back since she wanted to move in immediately. She's up here. But yeah, when she got holding me and her and she went to the bus station, I learned that she actually couldn't get a bus the same one that I already had. I had to redo my actual schedule. Okay. So after that, I did it. I got it renewed for pretty much nothing. It was free.
Okay.
And I helped her return most of it afterwards.
Okay. Did you give her money for it, or?
No, I paid for it.
Oh, okay. And then what happened?
And then
3 signs your car accident is worth major compensation.
I hate
If you've
these
been in a car
commercials.
accident recently, there are 3 critical.
because the one that I had to change, because that one was changed, we ended up going back to the hotel just to rest, pretty much. And we ordered food, and we were pretty much just resting there because we didn't know what else to do.
Where did you order food from?
One place was Domino's.
Okay. And they delivered it to your room?
Yep.
Okay. So Domino's delivered to your room, and where else?
And the other was Blanchard'S.
Okay. And then did they both deliver on the 11th?
No,
Oh, okay. So
they were on separate days.
Okay.
One time was on the 10th, and the other was on the 11th. And then I had to leave on the 12th because that's what I scheduled mine and hers for. We were able to get the bus, but after we got on the bus, we had trouble getting all the way up here, pretty much because the bus in
If you
Chicago,
don't mind pausing.
it was full, so we had to make our second bus, and it was frustrating.
In bits of this, he seems to chuckle a bit, which again could be alarming because of how we understand the situation, but is just another indicator that he doesn't fully understand there might be a consequence to all of this. There might be something heavier to this, and this is a situation that he could be in trouble for. He doesn't seem to process that.
Understand that.
So the chuckling, for lack of better word, seems to be bizarre in this situation because of how we would normally behave, how we would normally be anxious and glancing around. There would be a lot more going on there emotionally. But again, he's not doing this, and some people may view this as cold, calculated, lacking remorse, not caring at all about what he did. But this is just more of an indication of, again, he's not keeping things between the truth and, he's just answering what she's asking. And
Right.
so,
Because he's not thinking it is as serious. And I think throughout the whole time, that's the perception that I had, was that he didn't see it as an issue.
yes. Yes, and some people who are on the spectrum have it's a challenge to them to figure out that there might be a consequence, and that can come off as impulsive, but often it's just that they don't process the anger and disappointment and how they should feel under these circumstances because they just don't pick up on those clues.
Right, right. Which makes a lot of sense, because you could kind of tell based off of like the way he was reacting, and like you said, it is very consistent the whole time.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I'm back on my laptop, so I'm gonna show it on there,
Okay.
so it'll be better for you guys.
There is a small Are you frozen? Oh no. Nick would have a quite an ordeal coming up with a kind of scheme that Gypsy came up with here. It just would be so difficult for him to come up with all of this on his own, how this all played out. And he doesn't have the motive to do any of that because, again, he doesn't pick up on the social cues of anger and disappointment and guilt and things that people often try to avoid from others. They don't want to disappoint others or make others angry, and he doesn't pick up on that.
Yeah, that he doesn't seem to pick up on at all. Okay, I'm gonna end this one.
Oh no.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Are you there? I hear clicking too.
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Are you guys hearing me?
Yes.
You are hearing me.
Yes.
Okay, can you see my screen?
No, it's just blank.
Okay, tell me if you can see my screen now. It's getting ready to share.
Okay.
Do you see it or no?
Not yet.
I'm just gonna keep using the iPad then because I don't want to hold you up. I'm gonna
Okay.
turn this camera on so if you can see me, just make sure y'all.
Check together, huh? That's good. Okay, so did you guys go out anywhere to eat?
We were thinking about doing it, but we figured it was safe because my mom, she's worried for she, if she was down there last night, she's apparently what she told me she was a basket case while I was down there.
Okay.
Because she was so worried about me. But she told me to stay in the hotel, and that's pretty much why I did it.
Okay.
She was just.
She told you to?
Yeah, because she feared for my safety.
Okay. Okay. So then you guys get on the bus and then you guys get here, right? Okay. Did you write it right down each time you went?
Yeah.
All the way to the bus
There was no other bus station.
So where's the bus station stop at here?
Here it is stopped in Milwaukee.
Okay. And then how did you get from Milwaukee to your house in Benton?
My mom picked us up.
Oh, okay. So then would you call mom and say, hey, we're here, come pick us up?
Yeah.
And so was that the first time that your mom ever met your girlfriend?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess she's your girlfriend. If
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
And you love her?
Oh, the one ever.
You love her a lot?
I was bummed my eyes out waiting for this to talk to you.
Okay.
I was so worried about her.
Yeah. I think she loves you too. We spoke to her and for a long time. And I'm kind of thinking maybe she loves you a little more than you love her because you're sitting here telling me things that I know aren't true. And then she's sitting here telling me things that are true. And if you really love her, I don't think that you would want her in that situation, okay? The situation that she's in right now. And so we're going to go down to the paths here, okay? And that is just you're going to have to be honest with me. Because if you love her, if you love Gypsy, then you're not going to let Gypsy get in trouble without you being there to help her, okay? And so what you need to know is that Gypsy told us everything. We didn't talk to Gypsy all this time and not do everything. That's what we do. And so
If you're my
honorable, okay, for Gypsy and for your family.
Did you say to pause it?
Yes,
I want
please.
you to start over and tell the truth.
Okay.
Okay. And the truth is not.
Of course, here she is now accusing him of lying. So again, she seems to think that he is just being deceptive and manipulative. But his lack of emotion here, again, continues to be his inability to pick up on social cues. He's not even angry or sad or emotional in any capacity here when he's being accused of lying. So he doesn't even seem to pick up on the fact that he's being accused of dishonesty, that he should feel shame or anger at being accused of such a thing. We should see some emotion around this that we're not seeing. Again, as opposed to Gypsy, who would feign sadness around this. She would start making some sort of loud noise and being performative around this. He's not doing that. He's not trying to create any barrier or obstacle to, again, what she's trying to get from him. And so it's interesting she says this, and it's frustrating and angering to people because it's clear to us what's going on, but to her, she seems to very much think that he just has no remorse and does understand the situation, that maybe he's not very intelligent, she seems to believe, but that he is still manipulating. And her throwing Gypsy out there in front of him, of course, is frustrating. You know, using her as this carrot on a stick in front of him to get responses when he's been very cooperative and very, you know, consistent with all of everything he's been saying. No real uncertainty around anything. There's no wills, no shrugging a lot within any of this. There's not a high blink rate, no large illustrators. There are illustrators, but they are where they should be. And so Nick seems to emphasize more with his head movements and emphasize with his hands. He talks a lot with his hands, but it's not in a way that is distracting from what he's trying to say.
Do you think that at that time, when she kept bringing up Gypsy, she really thought that he was lying?
It seems that she did believe that, because she does, every time she seems to believe that he's not telling her certain things, which is ironically more because she's not asking the right questions at the right time and he's skipping parts of this timeline of events. Not because he's trying to be deceptive or not cooperate in any way. There's no hesitancy that indicates that or anything else. Just that she's not asking the right questions, and she seems to believe that this is him not offering up information that we typically would. You know, under the circumstances, we would want to give out information that would relieve us of guilt, or maybe even
I
get
get
in the
what
way
you're
of.
saying. Like, mhm.
So she's not asking the right questions, and she seems to think that he's being deceptive, that he's not being completely honest. And there's no indication that she, I mean, to me, not that I see, that she doesn't, that she believes he just needs an extra push, that he is telling the truth. She doesn't, she doesn't seem to think that.
And that's kind of interesting to me that she thinks that he's being manipulative, because I feel like you said before, he was pretty consistent in, you know what I'm saying? Like the way he was from start to finish to me was very consistent.
Exactly. And I am not in any way defending her, the way she's behaving towards him, the way she accuses him of this, but I do believe that she, again, she is receiving these bits of information from Gypsy. She's not receiving from him because she's not asking the questions about that sort of thing. And he's just very surface level, just answering what she's asking. But she doesn't seem to realize that he's not throwing anything in the way of the truth. He's not putting any extraneous detail out there. He's not loud and bearing in any way. He's not
Mhm.
that. He's pretty consistent, again, with what he's saying.
Right. And that's the thing that I think is weird, because I feel like she's acting like he's lying, but I don't see how she could perceive that.
Well, if trying to think of an example, we might say we went to the store and then we bought batteries at the store, and then while we were there, the cashier said hi. We might give those bits of information, but if he's not asked that, he's not giving that information. And so she might believe that he's skipping chunks of this timeline of events, and that could indicate that he's being deceptive, but he's not
Oh,
doing
okay.
that on purpose.
Okay, that makes sense. And she's probably still trying to read the room,
Yes,
and because she doesn't really know him,
exactly.
so she's not really sure what she herself is getting herself into.
Right, right. And there hasn't been, well, actually, how I should word this is that she does not have the awareness and education that she should have to pick up on clues that something else might be going on. So it seems that she's been maybe in the room more often than not with people like Gypsy, people who are manipulative and deceptive, and that's what she's trying to key in on more than someone who might actually be telling the truth.
Okay, that makes sense because well, I guess she's a investigator, so I guess she is typically dealing with people that are being dishonest, which is why she would perceive it as that.
Yes, and I personally also don't believe there's a lot of awareness and education, and there's so many varying factors when it comes to someone who's on the spectrum that it's difficult to tell sometimes. And again, that's not to defend her behaviors and how she's treating the situation, just that she seems to look at it solely as, is he being deceptive? What are the clues he's being deceptive instead of what are the clues he's not?
That makes sense because well, I think I wonder how often do they run into people on the spectrum on a grand scheme. Does that make sense? Like, how often does she have a encounter like Nick?
Well, that's the thing is typically people on the spectrum fall victim to manipulation and not to the capacity that Nick seems to have. Now, that's not impossible, but it seems to be rare that they become a perpetrator of some sort, that they're a suspect, because they seem to be more the victims of manipulation, of scams and crimes, and
Okay,
not so much people who would end up in an interrogation room.
that makes sense. So it's not this. It's not the typical for her. So that could indicate why she herself doesn't under really realize what's happening.
Right.
That makes sense.
Not what you told me.
I said I told you she believed the truth.
Is this
I believe
better?
the part that you got on a bus and went to Springfield.
Yes.
That's true. That you ordered food to eat. I believe that's true. I believe that it's true that at some point Gypsy came back with you to the motel. I believe that's true. I believe Gypsy got on a bus and came here with you. I believe that's true. That's all I believe. Okay? Because you missed a lot in there. And I understand that you missed a lot because you don't know what to say because you don't know what Gypsy said. I understand that. But I'll tell you right now, Gypsy did tell me everything. She told us everything. She told us about you coming there. She told us what happened to her mom. She told us about your guys' relationship. She told us about the cleanup. She told us about all of that.
Is it frozen for you?
If you want to
Yes,
do the right thing,
actually.
if you love her.
Okay, hold on.
There's no way.
Because I feel like
you
it's
do.
frozen
I believe
here.
you do. But this is the point where you're going to prove whether you do or not. Okay, me and you talk.
Hold on. Are you not seeing me?
I don't see you, I see the screen, which, as you
That's
said,
crazy.
now I see you.
You
And
do see me. I don't see me.
oh, that's odd.
Like you see my face?
I did for a moment there. I saw part of your face. I see you now.
Like my whole face.
No, I see you with the tablet in front of your face.
So I don't have it like that. That's the part that's so funny. Okay.
Goodness, so it's
Hold on. Let me turn the camera off and turn it back on. I'm not sitting like that. That's the part that's so weird.
I would help. I have no idea what's going on myself.
I do not look like this right now. I'm not holding. That's so crazy. Hold on. Let me see something. Why is it doing that? This is so weird.
I have no idea. And I'm not sure if it's a StreamYard issue or
It could be because it's acting really funny with sharing the screen. Like it's freezing. Like something's wrong with it, maybe? But I don't know why it would not let me try something.
okay. Well, she's away. Thank you all for joining, by the way. I'm sorry I am personally not looking at chat too much. It's difficult to flip between the screen and chat where I'm at, but I appreciate you all watching, and I appreciate Nina allowing me on. Hi, Forest Friend and Impossible Girl. If I could
Do you
speak
see
tonight.
me?
I see a black screen. There you
What
are.
is that? You do see me.
Now I do.
Okay. Good. That was weird.
Okay, because it's not fair. It's not fair to Gypsy for her to be honest and you to lie. Okay, so what I want to know can you tell me this first? Did Gypsy know that you were going to kill her mother?
Honestly, she asked me to.
Okay, so Gypsy knew you were going to do it because Gypsy asked you to.
Yes.
Why did she ask you to do that?
Because she felt it was her only way to be with me.
Okay, she felt like if you killed the mom, then that's the only way she could be with you.
Yeah.
Do you know the mom's name?
I don't know her real name. All I know is Didi.
Didi. Okay. So, has Gypsy asked you to kill anyone else?
No.
Okay, she just wants you to kill her mom.
Yes.
Okay. And how did Gypsy ask you to do that? Did she ask you to do that in a text message, on Facebook, or in person, or something different?
Well, it was more than once. I mean, you had Facebook. We talked about it on there. We talked about it even on Texas.
Okay. And what kind of things would Gypsy tell you that she wanted you to do?
It seems to be paused.
Yeah.
I was up here with her, and she felt guilty about the whole
So you
situation.
can't see it at all.
And meaning, like, I had to make sure she felt
Being at all.
comforted.
By
Let
you.
me see
Okay.
if it'll let me do
Because
this
and
one.
the truth is, okay, I'll admit it. I did actually stab her. I love it.
It does not want me to analyze this.
Man, because I'm like, why is it even the laptop's acting funny? I'm like, that's crazy. I think it might be better for me to just do it back on my phone and then make the screen bigger on my phone like I was before.
Don't worry about making the screen big unless, well, yeah, I don't think there's a lot that I mentioned that others can't see from far away, just personally because the angle of the camera.
Okay, hold on. Let me close this. Because I don't know why it's acting like this. Oh, that's annoying. Okay, that's better. All right. Here we go.
Okay.
The only reason I did it today for me, I was really reason I did it. I never did it for you.
Okay. So we wouldn't have done it if somebody else would have asked.
No, there's no way I would give anyone else off. Because I truly do worship her to the one that I want to for her.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think you proved that, right? I think that you proved that. You do what she asked you to do. If that's the case, she did ask you.
Yes, she did ask me.
Okay. And she asked you more than once. Did she ask you why you were here?
She asked me more than once because what happened was at first she wanted. See, the thing was that she wanted to do it herself because she's too. What's the word? Not cautious. It's I guess scared is the word. I didn't want to actually do it.
Okay.
Because she didn't know this was nice. Okay. And as for me, I honestly to this day I still feel guilty about it. Okay. I do.
Right.
Because I didn't. Because I learned so much about her mom. How she told me more and more about it. I'm actually getting away with it for a while.
Right.
I actually realized how good of a mom she was.
Okay, so it kind of makes you feel a little guilty.
No. I feel a lot more guilt than that.
Okay. Okay. Oh, because so Gypsy's telling you about her mom,
Yeah.
and then
How she was and her comprehension. Yeah.
okay. So when you came here to Springfield, that was your
I worry I'm messing things up on your end when I ask you to pause so much, but there's
No, on here it's fine.
okay. So he doesn't establish dominance in any way over this interrogator. He doesn't take up space. He doesn't even verbally express that he's above her or below her in any capacity. And again, this is something that would be more typical of someone who's trying to be manipulative and deceptive,
Okay.
who believes that they are superior to someone, and so they have the ability to deceive everyone, and everyone else around them is not capable of really thinking for themselves and looking seeing their deception. So that's something that I want to note there, is that that's not something he does. Sometimes it seems that he's trying to consider what he's going to say next. That's something we would see in someone who's, again, being deceptive, because they're trying to figure out how they're going to worm their way out of accountability, what they're going to say to avoid consequences. But you don't see that with him there. So when he gets still, it's very much just him listening, being engaged in this conversation and attentive. And then he
Mm-hmm.
emphasizes and illustrates with his hands. And it's often open palms. Now, that could be a shrug, depending on, if it's his entire shoulders, of course, but it's just him emphasizing with his hands and with his head. And then when she's speaking, he's just listening. But there's no hesitancy here that indicates this is him trying to worm his way out of accountability.
Right, because he literally seemed as though he was just telling her what it was that happened. What I also think is very interesting is that obviously Gypsy was telling them one thing and he was saying another. But I do think at one point he was trying to remember what it was that Gypsy told him to kind of follow along with.
It does seem that way. And I even picked up on that at a few points where he's more hesitant, where he doesn't seem so eager to point any fingers at her verbally. And that could be the case. For me, I believe that he of course is still wanting to protect her. He isn't eager to get her in trouble. And so you do hear that hesitancy. I'm not so sure it is about him trying to recall, because it's difficult to tell when there isn't that eye accessing, when there isn't so much the chin tapping and everything that he has that
Yep.
indicates he's considering. So that's
Mm-hmm.
difficult to say, honestly. I don't see that outwardly, but that's possible.
I only thought that just because she kept saying, um, what it was that she felt like he should say to line up with what Gypsy said. So it seemed like she wanted him to say something very specific. And I felt like he might have been trying to figure out what it was that Gypsy said, because that wasn't the story they spoke about.
I will say that usually there would be more of an indication of uncertainty around that, such as a lilt or more shrugging. He doesn't seem as uncertain when he does say things that you might see. Again, that's still possible, because with someone who is on the spectrum, they don't always do things the way we would normally do things. So that's still very possible. I just can't say for sure. When he is hesitant, it could be that he is considering, what did Gypsy say? What should I say here? And trying to key in on what she's trying to get him to say. So I can see that being possible. I just don't see the uncertainty around that. And then
Now, yeah.
sorry. And I also want to
Go ahead.
mention that there's no sadness, no grief, no anger, no emotion when he talks about how he feels remorse. So verbally, he's expressing, no, I feel very guilty. I feel very bad about this. But you don't see that expressed because, again, this is something that he has an issue hourly expressing that we would expect to see that someone might feel is deceptive, that this interrogator may believe is cold and deceptive. It's odd, it's bizarre that he's admitting to this crime and someone's life is ended and he doesn't show any emotion around this. But again, this is more typical of someone who is on the spectrum, and there would be a lot more hesitancy, a lot more emotion, actually, ironically, around this. It might not be the right emotion, but it would be some emotion. So, in comparison to Gypsy, again, she shows emotion, it's just the wrong one. It's usually aggression, for instance, around the ending of her mother's life instead of grief. And in comparison with Nick, we see nothing.
Okay, so and that kind of makes sense now. Like when you really think about it, which would be a indication of why she would have thought that she was dealing with someone that was like a sociopath or a psychopath.
Right, because she's not seeing the emotion we would expect. He's not sad at all about this, and so she probably believes that's pretty alarming.
Okay. That kind of helps me understand her a little bit more because I always felt as though she was very insensitive, but now you explaining it from that point of view, it makes a lot more sense.
I still don't I still don't want to defend her behaviors because there's a lot she did do wrong. That I completely agree she did wrong. It's just seeing it from that perspective of this is not something she typically deals with. I can see why she behaved that way, why she didn't ask those questions, and why there's specific things she'll sift through and ask questions about, but not the right things.
Okay.
Your purpose to come here so that way you can do that for
Ho-
Gypsy?
Question. Do you think it's because I know you said the lack of training, but I don't know. I feel like there should have been like some type of generic sort of training, like guidelines to go by, if that
There's
makes sense.
there should be. I'm not sure. Um, Personally, I do believe that there should absolutely be more awareness, more education on this, and yes, training. I mean, even when it comes to DV victims, there's still a lot that interrogators aren't trained on. So there's a lot of those things that there's just not enough education and awareness on.
Yeah, because this honestly, it just makes you sad to think that just didn't she didn't know what was going on.
Yes, because I wanted to be with her and I wanted.
So did Gypsy know he was coming here then to go ahead and kill Dee?
Yes.
Okay. So why did you guys decide that you would stab her instead of shooting her with a gun or poisoning her or beating her with a bat? Like, why did you guys decide stabbing would be what you did to kill her?
Honestly, the thing is we really wouldn't have known how to poison her. Honestly, we wouldn't have known how to.
Okay.
I mean, she looked up multiple times of how to do it, how to do it, because she wanted to find the quickest way to do it.
Okay, so like she looked up on the internet, like how to kill her mom?
Yes.
Okay. And so she was looking for the easiest way to do it?
Yes, first place would be less pain. She wanted her mom's death to be quick.
Okay. Okay, so you wouldn't know how to do the poisoning. And so, again, why did you choose the knife? Like, why?
The reason why we chose the knife is because I guess she thought that it'd be quicker if she bled out quickly.
Okay. Now, did she tell you that, or is it something you think she thought?
Most likely, that's what I would think she
Okay, but she didn't tell you to
No.
stab her because she bleed out quickly.
No.
Okay.
That's what I figured she was saying.
Okay.
It makes sense. More holes, faster they go away, and the faster they peace.
Okay. So the more holes you put into the body?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm understanding? Okay. Okay. So
It is a black screen now. Also, everyone in chat, I understand this is a very sensitive topic, and so I don't want to speak in absolutes. I know that a lot of people have strong emotions and opinions about this. Oh, there you
I had an Amber Alert.
are. Oh, I did too.
Oh, that's funny. Because I was like, wait, what just happened? I'm seeing the alert, but I don't hear it. But I guess because I'm on StreamYard.
Probably.
But what were you saying?
Oh, I was speaking to chat while I saw your screen go black because I thought you disappeared. I was saying that I understand this is a sensitive thing that Nick doesn't have the baseline we would expect. There's a lot going on that people don't agree with. They have a lot of strong emotions about and opinions about, and I understand that. And so I don't speak in absolutes, but I do want to just tell people what I'm observing, body language wise, behavior wise, what I observe and what that could mean for the interrogator, not to defend the interrogator or to say that Nick is being deceptive or anything absolute, just what I'm observing. And I just want to note that real quick.
He also, again, where you were speaking about the, like the throw, he still, he wasn't fidgeting with it still up until this point as well.
Right.
So it's still very consistent. And it wasn't like he was shielding himself, similar to Gypsy.
Right. With her, it's all over the place, all over her. And then at specific points, especially when she's discussing how Nick hurt her and she's a victim of,
Right.
then that goes diagonally over her shoulder like that. So it seems very manipulative.
Right. Right.
When you got, so you didn't bring a knife from here? No. So when you got your
Wait, sorry.
so did she know you were supposed to stab her? Okay, so what did the knife look like?
It was it had a red black handle.
Red and black? Okay. And how long was it?
Gosh,
Use your hands to show me.
maybe it was that long, maybe.
Was the red and black handle plastic or wood or
It was Gypsy grip. I can't remember what it's
was
called.
it squishy grip?
Yeah, it's really good in the words.
Okay. On the edge of the knife, like if you can you draw the knife for me? Maybe?
I'm not bad artist.
You're that artist? Okay. With the knife, like okay, if the knife went like was the knife smooth like this or was it jaggedy like that?
The same.
Jaggedy?
On one side and the other side was smooth.
Okay. And what color was that part of the knife?
It was just the black. I don't know. My gosh, I'm so sleepy. It was just the normal color of the ladies. It was
Like stainless steel type
Yeah.
look? Okay. So like see this edge of this table right here, kind of like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what that looked like. And then the handle was red and black, kind of squishy. Okay. Could you hold the knife with one hand or do you take two hands to hold the knife? One hand? Okay. Have you ever stabbed anybody before this?
No, that's the reason why this is the very only one person I ever do this for.
Okay. Only person you do it for is you. This is the first time you ever stabbed anybody. Okay. So when you're stabbing me, where's she at?
She's on her stomach.
On her stomach where? On the floor, in the bathtub, or somewhere different?
On the oh my gosh, try them. Where? Oh, I don't know. Seconds.
You're fine. Take your time.
She was on the bed. Her bed.
Her bed. In her bedroom?
Yes.
Okay. So was she sleeping on her stomach or just laying there watching TV or sleeping on her stomach? Okay, so she's laying in her bed sleeping on her stomach. Is she covered up with covers or uncovered or?
Actually, when I did it, it seemed like she had her something like on his tummy.
You do have a notification, by the way.
She barely even was covered at all.
Okay.
So
Oh,
yes.
Okay. So she didn't have much covers on her bed while you see her? Okay. And so when she's laying there, where's the first place you decide to stab her?
And this was in her side of the bed.
In the back of her hand.
Yes.
Do you know how many times you stabbed her?
4.
You stabbed her 4?
4 times. The fourth one, I felt it going into. I think it might have been her lungs.
Okay.
It was hard to get out.
Okay. Did it take one hand to get it out, two hands?
I had to yank it out.
Okay. Okay. So the other. You only stabbed her 4 times? Are you sure about that?
I just had it one other time.
sorry.
It's okay if you want to pause here. You,
Okay. And
I was just going to say that again, he's not offering obstacles. He's being very cooperative here. No uncertainty here. Illustrating at the right points, but again, that could be stemming. I can't say absolutely that this is just him illustrating. That could be, but there's things that he does that aren't repetitive that tell me that more than likely it's not just stemming. as opposed to other behaviors he does that are more repetitive and are most likely stimming. And that relief of stress or boredom or things that we might do when we stim. But he's offering solutions and she's not really keying into that. Again, she seems to be looking for emotions that would be more typical, and she's not
Seeing
noticing
that.
that. Right,
But
right. She's not
she's trying to like pry.
exactly, and she doesn't seem to notice that he's not, again, establishing dominance. He's not taking up space. He's being very emphatic and consistent and not veering away from anything. He does seem uncooperative when she asks him to draw this blade, and he says that he's not able to, and so that could again be something she may view as manipulative. But Nick himself again just continues to emphasize with his head in his hands, and then there are stimming behaviors, things that can seem like an illustrator or an adapter, which is a self-soothing behavior like stimming, but it's repetitive, and he's just very consistent throughout, offering solutions and not obstacles, not manipulating, not being over illustrative and making a lot of noises. I'm not seeing any eyebrow flashes that we should see, but again, we wouldn't see that with someone who is on the spectrum.
Okay. And he seems relatively calm.
Yes. Yeah, there's no emotion even in his tone.
Right. Like very monotone and to the point when she's asking questions. And now that you explained that part of it is the non-emotion, it makes more sense now. But it's just this interrogation is crazy to me. The fact that it went this far without her saying maybe he needs representation.
Absolutely. Yes, and I know we just got through the crime part, so I'll try to hang around for that and then the part that you want me to analyze, but
No, this is it. This part right here is the main part that I wanted you to analyze.
oh, okay. All right,
I
perfect.
will send you a clip of the other one, and maybe you can make a video of that part.
Sure, I might even clip it at the end of the analysis of her episode, or
Oh, perfect. That would be great. I'll send you the clip.
okay. Thank you.
Okay.
When you did it across the back of the neck, did
Hold
that cause an
on.
injury? Did you see any blood or anything?
Yeah, she was bleeding.
Okay, she's bleeding. And so did she scream or holler? Or
Yeah, she did.
what was she saying?
First she said help, and then she didn't recognize who I was. She said, who are you? And then
She said, who are you? Okay. Did she recognize who you are? She says help, and then what did she say?
she called up for Gypsy, but she didn't do anything.
Okay. She called out for Gypsy.
Yes.
And she called out for Gypsy once, twice, 5 times?
3 times.
3 times? And what was she saying? Can you tell me how she said it?
She pretty much yelped it.
Yelped it?
It's like,
Okay.
it's just loud.
And what did you do when she did that?
I didn't stop before and keep on going.
Okay. You just kept stabbing her? Yeah. Okay. Is there any reason that we would think that maybe you stabbed her more than 4 times?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Yeah. Did Gypsy come in and stab her?
No.
Gypsy never stabbed her?
She couldn't do it. As you asked me to.
Okay. Did you try to get Gypsy to come in and stab her?
No, I would have never done that.
Okay. So when you say 4 actual stabs, so those are the ones that went in deeper?
Yeah.
Was there some little ones?
There might have been. Because I counted the ones that went in deep. I didn't count if there's any other one.
Okay. So if there's any other ones, you just didn't count those because they didn't go in as deep?
Yeah.
Okay. But you know that 4 of them went in deep?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know where those 4 deep ones were? Are you counting the one on the back of the neck or not in that 4?
No.
Okay. So this is the back of the neck would be something different.
Yeah, it's completely separate.
Okay. So the 4 that went in deep, do you remember where those went on her body?
I honestly don't remember that I
Pausing.
think it's just a issue of guilt.
Okay. Okay.
So this is the only part that we really see what might look like emotion, but it's just a recreation of how Dee Dee was when this took place. And again, just really points to him only being able to implement and recreate things, not to create things on his own and do the type of role play and manipulation that people such as Gypsy do. And it just points to him not being creative on that level. And so we do see him recall an expression, but it's something he has seen. And you don't see him illustrate the stabbing motion. You don't see him illustrate that. Where you see the more emphatic illustrations in other places. So again, this could look like deception to people, and especially someone such as this interrogator. It could come off as deceptive because it's not what we would expect, where we would expect it, and it veers away from other instances where he is emphatic, but he just continues to emphasize with his head and with his torso more so than with just his hands at certain points. So it's still pretty consistent and doesn't veer away to an alarming amount from what we've seen earlier.
So, when she initially asked him about the amount of jabs, and he said 4 or 5, whichever one he said at that time, he sounded very confident in that.
Yes, so my belief is that what took place is Gypsy showed him 4 times precisely how to do it, and that he believes, okay, I did 4 times as she showed me, because again, he's not someone who could be creative. Now, this is, again, I don't want to speak in absolutes here because anything's possible, but I believe what's taking place is that he recalls that he was shown 4 times how to do it, and that would make sense why he would give this specific number. Someone who is on the spectrum wouldn't have the emotional, passionate motivation to do more, to do a lot more, to the extent that we saw from the crime scene, he
Hmm.
wouldn't have the passion. And so he would be very, I guess, methodical about it, very specific to what he's been shown.
And I don't know if you saw this, but where they showed the text messages between him and Gypsy, and he had like about 4 to 5 minutes to even complete all of the jabs that took place.
Right. So it did seem pretty quick. And I can't say what took place there because there's just a lot more that I've seen in the crime scene that was not possible within that time frame.
Right, right. Okay. Because I just wanted to see if we were kind of on the same page with that, because that part has always been the part that has, I feel like I have the most questions about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I agree with a lot of, especially things I've seen in comment sections and things I've seen people say, I agree. But from what I've seen of the crime scene, and I haven't seen more of the, I guess, gory, more graphic uh, things, but I have seen some things that it just
Thank
would,
you, Emily.
yeah, it would just take a lot more time. And it seemed very specific how Nick participated in this, how Nick did this. It seemed very much him just
Oh,
recreating what's been shown.
oh, you can't see this comment. So she said, just in my opinion, I just believe she used the handcuffs on Dee Dee and had her chained to the bed. Dee Dee woke up in confusion to Gypsy on top of her, took her life, unhandcuffed her, cleaned up. Nick came the next day and Dee Dee was covered up and he did the 4 and was set up. You know what? That's not something that I've thought of, but that actually makes more sense than anything that we've seen.
I would say the only thing that seems to differ from that um, is just that Nick is able to recall Dee Dee's face when she is calling for Gypsy, and I'm not sure how she would do that under that circumstance. But I also, again, this is part of why I feel the interrogator believes he's being deceptive. There's chunks of this timeline that are missing that could point to that being the case, but he leaves that out because he's not asked specifically about that.
And I think the way things happened, Gypsy like kind of sort of coerced him into believing that he did more.
Yes,
Does
I
that
can.
make sense? Like I know that sounds crazy, but I feel like she kind of mind screwed him.
Right. Well, I believe she projects a lot. I do. Just personally, my belief. I've seen her say things about Nick that were very much more about her. And so I can see where she says he's coercive, her being coercive herself. Just my belief, my opinion.
Okay. It's just crazy when you think about all of this because none of it actually really makes sense. And I feel like the more information you get is the more questions that you have. And you're like, wait, what actually happened?
Yes, absolutely. Especially even in this interrogation, there's so much that I wonder how he had a cut on him where he did. Um, given how I'm not sure, just personally about a few things. I didn't see him illustrate or describe him rolling her over. But then there's this part that's coming up that, I mean, I don't know if you want to continue playing it after I talk about it, but he talks about how she's making this face, she's screaming and things, which doesn't seem possible given her position. But then he talks about where she was, and he seems so uncertain, and there seems to be what we would see as stress around this, some anxiety around this. Though again, that with him, it's uncertain because he is on the spectrum, but just things are a bit different there when he starts to describe her being in bed. He says she was in her and he looks up and you see what is almost eye accessing there. And he just seems so uncertain about where she was, but he doesn't describe moving her or her being moved. So there are some things there that raise some questions.
And that kind of makes me wonder if that's where Gypsy kind of told him what the story would be at that point,
Yes. So
especially with the accessing. Um, it just makes you because you know what, I never really thought about that, but I know that part that you're talking about in specific, and you're right. Like he did very much change, like even his body, his hand motions. That actually makes a lot of sense.
yeah, something's going on there, but he's not pressed about it. Like no one asks the interrogator doesn't ask their questions. She asks pretty specific questions about their intimate life, them having intercourse in the theater. I don't want to say, I'm not sure what all I can
Right.
say, but what they did in the theater and what they did on Gypsy's bed. She asked specifics. Well, was it whose bed was it? And she just doesn't ask those questions when it comes to the actual crime scene. And I can see where
That
people
is
might, right, right. I can,
that is very odd. That's not something that I had thought about really before. But what I did think was very interesting is when she was asking about the blood on the wall,
yes,
she seemed to think that the blood, like it was in the wrong place. And that's what makes me think that it happened elsewhere and they got her there.
right,
Not as in him, as in someone else with Gypsy.
right. A lot points to there being possibly someone else involved and movement because her positioning, if she was just stuck there on that bed, there would be different, there wouldn't be different places where blood was, like you said, and he wouldn't be able to recall that face that she makes and how she's screaming for Gypsy. There's just a lot that again raises some questions there, and he doesn't illustrate or describe him repositioning her himself. So there's some confusion there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I know you only had a limited amount of time, so I really, really appreciate you so much. Because that was one of the most important parts to me was that. But I will send you the clip of what I was speaking about. Um, because I think that part is very interesting where he was speaking about Dan. That kind of made me wonder, like, hey, what really actually happened? But I'll have to go through it and get that part for you, and I'll send you like within a 5 minute range.
Sure, sure. And I appreciate you letting me on panel. I know again, like this.
No, I appreciate you, girl. You're the rock star.
Thank you.
But I do really appreciate you coming. You have given a lot of insight on this interrogation that I didn't like think of that aspect of it. So it actually is really good food for thought for me. So I really appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad, and hopefully this is also helps some people who didn't pick up on indications that Nick was even on the spectrum, or anything like that. And I know other people who have dealt with people who are on the spectrum may disagree with some of what I've said, because not all of those people are the same. They don't behave the exact same way, and it can get confusing and just vary from person to person. So I
Mhm.
get that, and I appreciate everyone who watched and listened, and you, Nina, especially. Again, I just appreciate this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Everybody, make sure you go follow her. She has some really great content on Gypsy. She did some on Ryan. She did some on Melissa Moore. Oh, your 60-minute um
Yes.
video. I love that. I meant to comment on it, but I was cleaning when I was watching it.
Oh,
That was a great, great video. And the Melissa Moore one was I really needed that for myself because she really doesn't make much sense to me. So I feel like you helped me understand her a little bit more.
well, you suggested it, and several people found that beneficial. So I appreciate that too, and I'm glad that you enjoyed those videos. The 60-minute one, especially. I don't remember entirely how that one did, but I'm just glad you liked that one.
That one was and I think for me, that one, I didn't realize I wanted to see that. Um, but I feel like it was really good because that 60-minute interview specifically was very different from like she was telling a different story in that, even to where she was saying she didn't show Nicholas how to do the jab motions and stuff like that, whereas she had said that before in the past. So it was kind of like very different from, I feel like she was really trying to change the opinion of the public without, but it's too far gone.
Right, right. I agree. Well, I think a lot of it too is her being impulsive and just not thinking clearly about what she had said prior, and how this looks, and what consequences of her saying this different story might be. And again, people like Nick aren't throwing out these obstacles and this inconsistency in stories, and so you can see that this is just more manipulation on her part.
Yeah, it was, that one was a very interesting interview. I was very happy you did that one, like super happy, because I that wasn't even on my radar to see you do. But when I saw it, I was like, wow, this wasn't something I thought that I needed to see, but I'm happy you did it.
Well, I'm glad, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you guys so much. I appreciate you, Indigo, coming. I definitely want to see more of you. Hopefully I will have my laptop actually charged next time.
Okay.
um, Everyone, I will see you all later. I will do a recap of this in the morning. I'll rewatch the what we spoke on and do a recap. And I will talk to you guys all tomorrow.
Sure. Good night, everyone.
Good night. You know, it's funny. I'm super tired. I took a hip hop class before this. So before I left the house, I plugged in the charger, but the charger wasn't plugged all the way into the adapter,
I know.
which is why I came home and the laptop wasn't charged. And I'm like, ah.
Worth
So
it though.
good night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.